This video has been a very long time coming. We're back in the closet, and it's time to talk about the Marshall Mathers LP. The music review website AllMusic has given the Marshall Mathers LP a 5-star review, and this is universally acclaimed as Eminem's masterpiece. A lot of people would say this is a 5-star album, one of the best rap albums ever, and of course, basically everyone agrees, the best Eminem album. Unlike so many kids born in the 2000s, and especially born in the 90s, I did not grow up listening to Eminem. I have no personal attachment to this album. I listened to it a little bit when I was getting into music, as everyone does who's getting into rap music, especially if you're like a white kid. I feel like that's a whole thing. I've talked to so many people who I know so many people who Eminem was just really essential into them getting into rap music, and his music holds a very soft spot in their hearts and in their minds for bringing them up and raising them and giving them an outlet for their angst. But this was not the outlet for my angst. In fact, the music I listened to was very positive and uplifting and happy. It was like Owl City music and Christian contemporary music. So this was very different from what I grew up listening to. And today I'm here to review this album without my nostalgia tinted glasses, and I have some negative things to say. This album is very dense. It's got 14 full-length songs. It's got 4 skits, 18 tracks total, and it's like over an hour and 10 minutes long. It's very long. It's very dense. The only way we can talk about this is by chunking it, by breaking it up, and we're going to be talking about the performances, we're going to be talking about the production, and we're going to be talking about the lyrics. First, of course, we have to talk about the rapping. I'm not going to go on and on about this. There's enough YouTube shorts breaking down in Eminem's complex rhyme schemes and the double and triple and quadruple entendres scattered throughout all of his music, and especially this album. Eminem's pen game is on point, obviously, but we're not talking about just the pen game, but the physical speed of the rapping. He's on top of the world on this in terms of his delivery and performance. And he's delivering these hooks also. And while his rapping ability is impressive, his hook game is not always extremely impressive. I mean, just some early examples. The hook on Kill You is so freaking awkward as Eminem is trying to match the pace of this already extremely whack beat. More on that later. And it's this just gimmicky beat, and he's just matching the tone of the beat. And I'm not going to do it or play it, but it seriously has not aged well at all. And then on Who Knew? I never knew I'd get this big. I never knew I would affect this kid. Like the little inflections he's doing in his voice. Maybe some people think that's cute. Maybe some people think it's funny. Maybe some people think it's cool or good. But it's just corny. The best word to describe his hook on this song is corny. And then as you're going throughout the track list, there's other hooks that he absolutely kills. I love the hook on The Way I Am, that just energy he's bringing to that song. The Real Slim Shady, absolutely iconic hook. Eminem is going off. He's doing a great job. He just murders that. And then you have the song Under the Influence, which I can understand this being a polarizing song, and I really hate, I don't know if it's the first or second rapper featured on the song. I really hate his verse. And his performance, I think, is also awkward. But Eminem does a great job on that hook. It's very kind of nasally, and it's something that could be very corny, but I think he just plays it off so well with so much bratty energy that it actually works and goes over pretty well. We could keep talking about this at length. This review could be extremely long if I went in length with each of these points, but we're just going to move on and start talking about the production. I'm going to reiterate what I just said about the songs Kill You and Who Knew. The beats on these songs are so corny. They are so freaking repetitive. I know you might be saying, oh, that's not a legitimate concern, a beat being repetitive. It's a concern when the beat is this short of a sample. It doesn't change. The beat on Kill You doesn't even change. There's no change in the production during the hook. It just stays the same. And it's such a short little snippet of a beat that is looped. It gets so grating so quickly. The beat on Who Knew is only slightly better in that there is a little bit of strings, there's a little bit of stuff added when the hook actually comes in. But once again, the sample is just, it's not as corny as the one on Kill You, but it just does nothing. It's just such a lame, minimalistic beat that doesn't sound cool. You can't vibe with this. It's just there to continue Eminem's flow, which of course, as it is on the entire thing, I should reiterate, his performances are really good in terms of his speed and rapping ability and the talent and all that kind of stuff. But like, this beat is not it. And I say all that, and then the beat on the song The Real Slim Shady is like a similar type of beat. It's a short sample, but Eminem's just energy carries him through, and he rides that beat so well. And just not necessarily rides the beat, he utilizes the beat in just a really cool way. And that's what all these beats are. Or they're tools for him to get his lyrics across, generally speaking. The beats don't really carry on any of these songs, except for one, which we're going to get to. But in general, like, this is pretty good. It works very well on this song, The Real Slim Shady. Three massive highlights in terms of the production on this album. Obviously, Stan, easily the best track on the album, sounds amazing. The hook, which is a sample, is fantastic. It's it's like the fan favorite Eminem song. I think most people would say that's his best song. I would have to agree as someone who is not an Eminem fan at all. It's a phenomenal song, easily the best on the album. The beat on Be Pleased 2, and of course I'm censoring that, Female Dog 2, is sick. It's a sick beat. It sounds so good. It's the best ensemble track on the album. There's a couple ones which just have a bunch of features. Snoop Dogg is good on the track, but like, that beat really does do a lot of the heavy lifting. It's very cool. It's very, Dr. Dre. It's very like 90s inspired, and it just goes over very well because, 90s beats are sick. And then the title track has this looped, gloomy, kind of moody, atmospheric guitar sample that sounds fantastic. That's my favorite production on the entire album, is just that looped guitar sample, creating this really immaculate vibe on the song Marshall Mathers. The beat on Remember Me has something to offer, but the hook is so, like, awkward, and the actual verses, this is another ensemble track, are so not great and just awkward and just trying to go for shock value. I don't really see the appeal of this song, Remember Me. And Amityville has an even more awkward hook, if you can believe it, and a beat that is less interesting. And it's just, Eminem is barely on the song. And I'm going to be honest, on this album, when Eminem isn't present, you're often left, these features leave a lot to be desired. And there are a couple songs which are basically just features on this album. Even the song Under the Influence, I think Eminem is pretty solid on that track and doing that hook. But the other guy on the other performances on the song, there's a couple features, I think it's a rap group, are not great. Like, when Eminem is not first and foremost on this album, it's kind of like, let's bring M back. Will the Real Slim Shady please stand up? And lastly, of course, let's talk about the lyrics. I already said this, but lyrically, this album is, of course, very, very, very impressive on a technical level. What I have an issue with, and of course I can respect the technical proficiency of the rhymes and of course the performance and the way they are delivered, it's all very impressive and it's all very technically fantastic and like amazing. When Eminem is doing it, I think some of these verses by these guest features are sloppy and just going for shock value. Like that first verse, guest verse on Under the Influence, is particularly awful. And the bizarre feature on, I think that's Remember Me or Amityville, I don't remember, I think it's Remember Me, not great. But the lyrical content on this album, obviously, it's controversial. Eminem is still sort of embracing the Slim Shady character, even though it's to a lesser extent. And it's weird because he's still saying a lot of the same really controversial, like homophobic and rapey and violence kind of stuff. But then he's also saying like, oh, but this is the Marshall Mathers LP. So I'm a bit confused as to why the lines between the characters are so blurry, even though it's really obvious we're talking about Slim Shady on a song like The Real Slim Shady. But then you also have songs like Marshall Mathers, where he's constantly using the F-word gay slur in a derogatory way. And there's even a skit on here, which is like a gay bashing skit. And I'm pretty sure it's done for comedy. And that aspect of comedy has not aged extremely well. And of course, we do need to talk about the song Kim, if only for a little bit. Kim is a song in which Eminem fantasizes about killing his wife. And it's a little bit disturbing. Even though, once again, I think there is an element of this that is played for comedy, which, okay. Stan is a cool song. It's about a fan who is obsessed with Eminem, and it's this really interesting interweaving narrative that is just very fascinating lyrically speaking. And like I said, that hook just hits so hard. He didn't write that hook, but the hook works very well in the context of the song. And it's a great song, and lyrically it's good. The other lyrical highlight on the album, what I think is probably an underrated Eminem song, I don't know how much the fan base loves this song, but Drug Ballad is a pretty great song about drug addiction and like his relationship, Eminem's relationship, and a lot of other people's relationship with alcohol and drugs. And it's just a really great song, narratively speaking. The song Criminal also has some cool and interesting lyrics. And throughout the album, just like NF, the Eminem clone, a lot of the lyrics on this content, a lot of the lyrical content on this album is just Eminem talking about himself and kind of a meta commentary on his own music, which is kind of crazy given that this is like his second album. And this was like the one that made him popular. Like, I don't know how massive the Slim Shady LP was, but looking back, this album just overshadows that album by a million miles. And he's already just obsessively talking about the impact his music has had and how controversial he already is. So that's interesting. And lyrically, that stuff is kind of, I can't criticize it too hard. But lyrically in general, the album is not, I'm not a huge fan of the lyrical content of the album, even though technically it's extremely proficient and extremely impressive. And that point I just made can be applied to the entire album. I think technically, besides some of the beats, which I legitimately think are not very good and tiresome and like corny, and some hooks that I legitimately do think are corny and have aged badly, I can understand why so many people love this album. The nostalgia factor is a huge thing for so many people. Even without the nostalgia factor, you cannot deny Eminem's talent. And I would say that you can't really deny like just the lyrical ability and the performance ability of this artist, even though I just on a personal level don't really enjoy it. Like on an objective level, the album is an 8 out of 10. And that is the score I'm giving this album, 8 out of 10. On a subjective level, I really don't care much for this album at all. I would probably give it like a 6 out of 10. And I know I was talking about, is this a 5-star album, but now I've reverted to the 10 out of 10 scale, and that's fine. My personal score would be a 6 out of 10, but that's not the score I'm giving this album. I like to put my subjective opinions out of my scores as much as I can, so I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. I think the album, or 4 stars. I think the album is quite good, very good on a technical level. I just don't really care for it. There, I did it. I pulled off the Band-Aid. Thank you guys for watching the video. Please yell at me in the comments. Tell me that I suck. Like, I want all the hate for me giving an album an 8 out of 10. I want you to lay it on me. Like, I gave this album a positive score. 8 out of 10 is the same score I gave Kid A. Like, just tear into me. Tell me why it's a masterpiece. Tell me why it's actually, why my subjective opinion is wrong, even though I gave the album an 8. I've seen this happen before. Thanks for watching the video. Have a great rest of your day.